So welcome back. In the last episode, we talked about the introduction, talking about each page being made up of Java and XML, and what XML is used for, which is used to render the interface, and what Java is used for to handle the logistics. So now we'll be talking about the splash screen activity. So just come here to Android Studio. Let me make sure the video is recording. Yes, it is. So just come back here to Android Studio, and we would open the splash activity. Now the splash activity is here. Now, like we said, every page is made up of what? Java and XML. So this is the XML. We'll just open up the XML, and these are all the XML files that make up the splash activity. This one is less important. We don't really have to interact with it. It just stands as a glue to glue between the contents splash and the splash activity, and it just does some custom formatting. Everything in the file is just auto-generated code. These are the codes that we hand wrote ourselves, and this here as well are the codes that we wrote ourselves. So here we'll start with here. Now here we want the page to look somewhat like this, and that is, if I come back and close the app and we open it again, it's just going to show the way we want it to show. Now this is it. Sorry about that. Now we click this. Now we want it to show somewhat like this. It should have an icon here, and it should have some text here. Now making that text appear one after the other is something we had to achieve with Java. So here we want to have this image here. In Android, we have several controls used for marking up. So to add an image to a screen, we use the image view, and to add a text, we use a text view. We'll be talking about the rest as we encounter them later. So now in Android, we have two kinds of display elements. That is, we have two kinds of display elements. We have the widgets and the view groups. The widgets, also called the views, are used to display something directly on the screen, maybe an image or a button or a text, or collect input field, display an input field to a user to collect input, or a drop down, or anything that can be shown to the user. While the view groups, otherwise called layouts, are used to house this view elements, these views, to let the screen know how to position each of these views. On a page we might have several of this displayed, but we want to know how we want them to be displayed. So we use these view groups or layouts to actually specify how we want them to be organized on the page. Now for these view groups, they are finite. They are quite finite. I think there are 5 or 6 of them, but throughout our app we used just 2 or 3. Now the view groups we have the linear layout. This linear layout allows for us to arrange something in order linearly, and then the linear layout has 2 variants. We have the vertical, which arranges them on top of one another, and horizontal, which stacks them side by side. So the linear layout is the main view group or layout we used in the majority of our application, and the other is relative layout. Relative layout allow us to position something exactly where we want it to be. We could say, okay, we want to add a button inside a relative layout, and we want to put it at the top left corner, or we want it to be at the center, or we want it to be at the bottom. But with linear layout, the first element is the first to be displayed, the second is the second, the last is the last to be displayed. But in relative layout, we could ask the first element to be displayed at the top of the screen and the last element to be displayed at the center of the screen. It doesn't matter the order with which we add them to the screen, but in linear layout, that matters a lot. The order matters to how they are being displayed. So on this page, we used linear layout. On the splash page, we used linear layout, and the linear layout, we added it, and we said there are two variants of the linear layout. There's the vertical and there's the horizontal. So here we had to specify which one we want to use. So to specify that, we had to add this orientation vertical, which means it is a vertical linear layout. It will stack them on top of one another. If I change this to horizontal, it will stack them side by side. As you can see, it has changed it. It's put this one first and this one after it. So but we want it to be vertical, so we keep it vertical like this. Now the next thing we want to talk about is this layout width and layout height. For every given element, anything we want to add on the screen, be it a layout or be it a view, we have to specify two things: the width and the height, which will determine the size. Those are the two most important things we have to specify. And for every element we add to the page, an image view, a text view, a button, spinner, a drop down menu, or anything, we have to add the width and height. It specifies how big we want it to be on the screen. So now to this image view, in Android the unit of measurement is DP, which stands for display independent pixel. So units in Android, we have the DP, which stands for display independent pixel, and we have the SP, which stands for scalable pixel. All these units are just added to enable our app to be able to render properly on phones with smaller screens and on phones with bigger screens. So it will just try to scale. If the screen is small, it will appear, it will shrink. If the screen is bigger, it will expand. So here we said we want to add an image view. Now this image view, an image view enables us to display an image on the screen. Now, like I said, we have to specify the width and height. Now we said we want the image view to be 164 dp wide and 164 dp tall. Now, which means it will be a square. Now to specify what image we want to be displayed here, we have to specify the SRC. So if we don't specify the SRC, it's just going to be a blank image. The moment we put in the SRC, which is the image source, is going to tell us which image we want to display. So like I said earlier, we keep our images in the drawable folder. So in order to achieve this, we just paste the image here in the drawable, and we sorry about that, we put the image in the drawable, and here the image we want to use is the icon. Now this icon over here, what is the name of the image? It's icon.png. so if we want to reference it, we'll just call it @drawable/icon. We don't add the extension because it's in the drawable folder. We say @drawable, and we want to include the icon. So we say @drawable/icon. It will go into the drawable directory and fetch the icon file. And then this ID is not so important, but it is necessary if we want to reference it from Java. There are some things we add to the UI that we don't interact with it from Java, so we'll not even be giving it an ID. But in the case of this one, we want to interact with it from Java, so we give it an ID as well. So now for the text view, we have the text view here, and we give it width, match parent, height, wrap content. Now specifying size in Android, you can either specify size in three ways. The first is saying match parent. Match parent means it's going to take as much space as the parent, as big as the parent is, which means it's just going to, if the parent is as big as the entire screen, then it's just take the entire